Welcome to Detroit. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass. You can drown them. And that's what we gotta be. That's who we have to be. Because that's our domain. That is our domain. Because we'll tread water as long as it takes to fucking bury you.
Takes the snap, turns, gives to Montgomery, right side, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions! Yes.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. So folks, obviously we know we're getting set to play the Bengals here. And obviously we know that the Bengals, even though their record is 2-2, that is not at all indicative of what they are as a team. Everyone that has watched the Bengals, probably for at least, I would say since 2022, knows that this is a team that, quite frankly, is, I'll just put it out there as bluntly as I possibly can. They're really nothing of a team unless Joe Burrow is playing us, or anybody for that matter. And the reason I say that is because when the Bengals have Joe Burrow, they are a competent enough team to where they can pose a threat to win just about any Sunday. But without Joe Burrow, they are a team that barely manages to scrape by in most cases. And over the, years that have followed since they made that Super Bowl run in 2021, it's gotten even worse in that regard because it's like, I almost hate saying it the way I'm about to say it, but it's kind of the truth. The Bengals of right now are kind of like the Lions of, the early 2010s and, going all the way up to the late 2010s. Kind of like that period of, hey, when we had Stafford, we had Megatron and all that. It's like, listen, as long as we had Stafford playing, we could at least claim that there was a slight chance we could win. But if Stafford didn't play, we were screwed. That's exactly where the Bengals are right now as an offense and as a team. If Burrow's playing, they have a chance to win. But if Burrow's not playing, they have very little chance of winning. And the reason I state that is because, as we all know, Burrow's done for the year. He had a grade 3 turf toe injury. He's done. He's not playing. The Lions are not going to have to deal with Joe Burrow, and pretty much almost any other team's not going to have to deal with him this year. Only 2 teams had to play against Burrow this year. And let's just call it for what it is. Since Joe Burrow had left the game, if I recall correctly, it was against the Seattle Seahawks when it happened. I could be wrong. But since that game where he left because of the turf toe injury, the Bengals have just absolutely become a wreck. Not just offensively, but defensively. And it's gotten worse and worse over the subsequent 2 weeks since the injury occurred. And when I take a look at this matchup that the Lions are about to have against the Bengals, I already talked about it yesterday with the offense that we have going up against their defense, and pretty much the way I look at it is our offense is absolutely licking its chops wanting to play against this Bengals defense, which is an absolute train wreck. Well, I'm telling you this right now. Our defense is pretty much in the exact same boat. Because our defense is looking to absolutely maul the ever-living hell out of the broke offense of the Cincinnati Bengals. And again, the reason I say that is because the Bengals do not have Joe Burrow. And when they don't have Joe Burrow, like I also said, it's not even close to the same team. And let me just put this out there for you. Remember this, last year, Joe Burrow led the NFL in passing yards, if I recall correctly. Take a look at the stats of where the Bengals offense is currently, and you're going to see a really clear picture how drastic the difference is when Burrow's in versus when he's not in. Because currently, over the first 4 weeks of the year, 2 of which he has not played, this is what the Bengals look like. And I'm going to tell you this right now, it don't look pretty. It looks absolutely horrendous. When you are ranked 30th in points, dead last in yards, you're ranked second to last in yards per play, and you are tied for last in terms of first downs gain, you be bad. You absolutely stink to high heaven and low hell. And when you take a look at virtually every single ranking that is up there on that board, it is absolutely astounding how bad this offense is. There are a ridiculous number of 30th, 31st, and 32nd rankings for this offense. It is atrocious. It is terrible. And I'm telling you this right now, the reason why I bring this up is when I actually did some number crunching, looking at my own, stats that I just compiled there. There are 19 or 20 different, statistical categories that I put up there. I think there's 20 if I remember correctly. Out of those 20 categories, the Bengals are ranked bottom 10 in 17 out of 19. 17 out of 19. Or 17 out of 20, pardon me. I mean, dude. When you're ranked that far down, it's bad. But what makes it even worse is when you take a look at it for even a further review, they are ranked bottom 5 in 12 out of 20. So that means they're ranked 27th or lower in, those categories. I mean, dude, it's just absolutely atrocious how bad they are. Or, 28th or lower. I mean, you're talking about an offense that is just absolutely atrocious. This offense has got about as much bite to it, as much fight to it, as much, fear factor to it for defenses as a toddler. That's how bad this offense is. And the reason why I talk about it like this is I'm not trying to make it sound as if the Bengals suck. Because they do have talent. They really do. But this is a team that is 100% reliant on the fact of having Joe Burrow in the lineup. Otherwise, almost everything else for them completely falls apart. And it shows when you take a look at the numbers. Now, understanding that, you now have to then, on the flip side, take a look at what the Lions' defense is coming in to this matchup against that same offense we've been talking about for the last few minutes. When you take a look at our numbers, on the flip side of this coin, I'm going to say this. Even though our numbers, most of them are kind of, above average, like middle of the pack to above average, that's still an immense amount better than where the Bengals' offense is. And here's the truly impressive part about our defense is that, we're not exactly top 10 in points. We're ranked 15th, but we are ranked top 12 in yards. We're ranked top 12 in yards per play, but we're top 7 in first downs given up. And we're top 10 rush defense for the most part. So it's like, okay, here. There are parts about this defense that are playing at a really, really high level. There are other parts of this defense that are still trying to figure itself out a little bit. But for the most part, this defense is playing at an above average level right now. Well, let's just do the simple math of comparative analysis here. You have an above average defense in most statistical categories going up against an offense that is quite literally ranked bottom 10 to bottom 5 in virtually almost everything. In fact, if you think about it for the most part here, I literally had to do this. The Bengals offense literally has one top 10 ranking of it, two top 10 rankings of it in the entirety of all those freaking statistical categories that I pulled out. You want to know what they are? They are tied for first in the NFL in fourth down conversion percentage, and they are tied 8th in the NFL in red zone percentage. And that's only for touchdowns. So what does that exactly tell me? It tells me if they get into a fourth down conversion that is somewhat manageable to try and convert, they've got a decent chance of possibly converting it. if they get even close enough to make it worth a while attempt, like 5 yards or less. And it tells me that if they somehow get to the red zone, of which there's not much of a chance of that happening because their scoring drive percentage is only 25%, which is ranked 31st in the NFL. If they somehow get to the red zone, they've got a better chance than not of actually scoring points, an actual touchdown. But again, that requires them actually driving the full length of the field. So if you keep them out of the freaking, red zone, which is the 20-yard line going in, you don't really have too much to worry about. And considering the fact that our defense is ranked top 6 in terms of scoring drive percentage, because I believe we're ranked, we're top 7, pardon me. We're ranked 7th. We're 33.3% in scoring drive percentage. And, that's right, we also have a turnover percentage of ending drives at 13.3%, of which the Bengals offense literally has a turnover per drive 18.2% of the time. We have a turnover 13.3% of the time on our drives as a defense. So pretty much this is what it tells me. Yeah, if the Bengals should somehow find a way into our red zone, we might have something to worry about. But chances are they're not really going to get very close to the red zone. Now, that's just looking at the statistical comparative analysis. It really is. But I know this for a fact. The stats are only going to tell you part of the story here. The other part of the story is you have to bear in mind what also is going on in terms of the rosters, in terms of the players, who's playing, who's not playing. You also have to bear in mind where we're playing at because we're going to be at the Bengals home stadium. We are not going to be at Ford Field for this game, at least if I recall correctly. So it's like, okay, here. There's a couple of other things you have to bear in mind. So, we know that the Lions defense, statistically, is an above-average defense going up against an offense that is absolutely a dumpster fire for right now. And talent-wise, we have more collective talent available to us on our defense than the Bengals have on offense. Now, let's understand something here. That does not mean that the Bengals do not have teeth on offense. They certainly do. The problem is that the teeth that they do have, unless their quarterback is actually able to get the ball to them, they really don't use those teeth very often. And what I'm talking about is their wide receivers. Because when you consider the comparative analysis of talent across both units, the Lions defense virtually has a talent advantage at currently almost every area, except when it comes to the wide receivers of the Bengals versus our cornerbacks. And the reason I say that is because currently the Lions have a bit of a problem when it comes to the whole cornerback room because we already know that DJ Reed is not going to be able to play for the next couple of weeks. I would say most likely the next 3 to 4 weeks because he's dealing with a hamstring injury that he just sustained. And we don't know if Terrion Arnold's going to play because he's dealing with a shoulder injury. He has not been ruled out, but he is highly questionable as to whether or not he'll be available to play in the upcoming game against the Bengals. But if he doesn't play, we've already been told by Coach Campbell that he will more than likely be available to play the very next week when we play against the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, here, kind of trying to figure out what we've got here as far as the cornerback room is concerned. Now, that's the bad news. We know we don't have DJ Reed, and we know that we're very questionable to get Terrion Arnold back. But here's the good news. The good news is that we still have Amik Robertson, we also still have Avonte Maddox, and we also still have Rock Ya-Sin. All three of those guys are savvy veterans. All three of those guys know the defense. All three of those guys will be able to fill in very well. The problem is that past them, we really don't have anybody. We have one guy that's currently on the practice squad that's been here for a minute, and late last night it was announced that the Lions are signing former Seahawks starting cornerback Trey Flowers to the practice squad as well. I'm just going to let you know this right now. Based upon what I looked at as far as a preliminary of his entire career, it don't look too pretty. He's not exactly been known as the best cover corner. He's big, he's physical, he's very good in run defense, but pass defense, he's not. So it's like, okay, there's a couple of things to consider there. But past the fact that we don't really have a whole lot of cornerbacks in relief outside of currently Rock Ya-Sin, Amik Robertson and Devontae Maddox, we still also have Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph back there. I know a lot of people are wondering whether or not Kirby Joseph is going to play. I'm going to tell you this right now. He's most likely going to play. He was able to finish the game against, the Browns. Chances are he's going to play against the Bengals. So, okay. There's a lot to consider within that. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Even while the secondary does have some questions, it does have some concerns, that secondary is still able to hold its ground for the most part, and it's going to be bolstered by the fact that our pass rush, which is second best in the NFL right now, it's actually tied second best in the NFL in terms of sacks, because we have 14 sacks on the season, which is tied for second best. We are literally going into this game, according to PFF, we have 2 top 15 edge rushers. Who in the hell would have thought that one would have been possible, considering all the conversation that we had this entire offseason about edge rushers? Al-Quadin Muhammad is ranked 11th in the NFL right now in terms of pass rush win percentage with 23.1%. Aiden Hutchinson is ranked 9th with a 24.4%. Think about that. We have 2 top 15 pass rushers in the NFL in terms of pass rush win rate. Now, why is that important? It's important because what is the best friend of a pass rush? Good pass coverage. And what's the best friend of good pass coverage? A good pass rush. Well, as I just stated, we have 2 top 15 edge rushers, right? You want to know where the Bengals pass block win rate is according to ESPN? It is dead last in the NFL. They have a pass block win rate percentage of 45% as a collective offense. That is not only dead last, but it is so badly dead last, it's not even funny. The next highest unit, which is ranked 31st, is at 49%. There is a 4% gap between the absolute worst and the second worst pass block win rate unit for an offense. That lets you know just how ridiculously bad this offense is as far as maintaining pass blocking to give their quarterback the ability to get the ball to the appropriate wide receiver. That's why when they have Joe Burrow, they have a chance, because Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's able to get the ball out of his hand relatively quickly. But Jake Browning is no damn Joe Burrow. It ain't even close. And think about this. I'm going to tell you this right now. I feel bad for Jake Browning. I really, really do. I really do. Because we have 2 of the best edge rushers in the game going up against one of, if not the worst, offensive line for pass blocking in the game. For Jake Browning, that means it's going to be a long, long day for him. And I know that because when you take a look at the numbers for Jake Browning, since Jake Browning has taken over for Joe Burrow, of which he's only started 2 games, albeit he's played in 3, Jake Browning has been sacked 7 times in 3 weeks. 7 times. You want to know where that ranks since he actually, entered in that game? That means that he has the 11th, I think he's tied for 11th most sacks in that time period. So in 3 weeks, he is just barely outside of the top 10 for quarterbacks with the most sacks. Which, by the way, you want to know who ranks number 1 in that category? That would be Lamar Jackson, which, by the way, we sacked 7 times. So let's just reanalyze this for what it is. You have a terrible ass offense in the Bengals who cannot block to save their life for their quarterback. You then, on top of that, have a defense which is above average in virtually everything, but we are very good in getting our pass rush going. We have a very good defense, a top 10 rush defense, and you're going up against a unit that is having a backup quarterback that is getting sacked virtually 3 times a week, at least ever since he's become the starter. And on top of that, even if you were able to run the ball, which we know the Bengals can't do that either, you've got a top 10 rush defense on the opposite side of you as well. So, putting this all into perspective here, the only thing the Bengals have going for them in their favor is the fact that we currently have a question mark about our cornerbacks. But if you can't protect your quarterback to get the ball out of his hands, so unless you're just going to continually dink and dunk down the field, either, doing these screen patterns, slant patterns, zig patterns, whatever, all damn day, or you're just going to throw the ball up and hope for a 50-50 ball, which I would not recommend that with Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph back there, you really don't have much of an offense. You can't run the ball. You can't protect your quarterback to throw the ball unless you just dink and dunk down the field. So it's like their offense is very, very limited. And even if they do have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, that's not going to be enough to move the needle. So, I know some are going to say I'm being ridiculously over-optimistic about this, but the point of the matter is the Bengals' offense is literally moving with the explosiveness of a 150-year-old turtle. And against the Lions' defense, which is not only, second in sacks, it's tied 7th in takeaways currently in the NFL. And like I said, it's one of the best rush defenses on top of that. This defense should have a massive opportunity not only to impose its will on the Bengals offense, but to quite literally give our offense in return a huge chance to get their second, 50 burger. That's how bad this is for the Bengals. Not only is their offense ridiculously bad, because, that's right, they literally can't score, they can't protect their quarterback, they can't run. Their defense, as I talked about yesterday, is also ridiculously bad, going up against one of the best offenses in the NFL, if not the best overall offense. Y'all getting the picture here? That's why I'm using some of the terminology I'm using in my video titles. Massacre, bloodbath, wounded animal, terrorizing. I mean, that is literally what this game is looking like for us against the Bengals. And considering the fact that last time we played the Bengals, they were the ones that absolutely massacred us, which was back in the 2021 season, this is another one of those, we're going to have ourselves a little bit of a revenge matchup from what happened, 4 or 5 years ago. Some people might call that petty, but I'm going to tell you this right now. Us Lions fans and the Lions, we definitely kind of remember that stuff. So, just saying. But anyway, I have said my point. I have put it out there. So, I'm going to end this episode and say, thank you all for watching in another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. I also encourage y'all to do one of these 3 things, like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and you've not yet had a chance to do so, I want to highly encourage y'all, please, make sure you hit that bell notification icon so you guys never miss any more content that I push out. And of course, if you like the content, please subscribe. It helps me out. Hope y'all are doing well and got something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, my friends, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.